Athenagoraphobia is an intense fear of being forgotten or forgetting someone or something. It can also be a fear of being ignored or replaced. From a small glance, this phobia doesn't seem like a big deal. Why do people become afraid of such a mundane thing, such as someone not remembering you? After all, there's 8 billion people on the planet, which means you're gonna run into a lot of new faces, create friendships or relationships that would come and go, and then the cycle continues. It's a part of life. Even though this phobia is rarely reported, is a very common phobia, and the people that suffer from it can have low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, social anxiety, depression, the list goes on. But it will make sense why people will have this fear. Yes, it's a pet peeve for anyone to be ignored by people that happen to be, like, say, for example, your boss or your coworker or your teacher. But what if it was amped up to even higher stakes? For example, being ignored by your friends, your close relatives, or your crush, or strangers or people that you want to make connections with ignore you, or doesn't even want anything to do with you. And yes, it can sting a little, especially reaching out or trying to make new friends for the elder or younger, and they just simply don't want anything to do with you. For children, this can be very devastating. Being left alone at lunch tables where no one wants to sit with you, on playgrounds where you're playing by yourself, or groups where all you have is your own thoughts to keep you entertained, which can lead to them being shy or introverted. When I was 7 or 8 years old, my friend would always sit with this one kid at lunch, leaving me practically by myself at the table while the other kids in my class would talk to each other. I was just there sitting quiet, eating my lunch. And this kept happening the following days with my friend hanging out with this other buddy, sitting at the same assigned seats. Then one day I had an idea to be in line first for lunch so that I could be the first one at the lunch table. When I took his friend's seat, he told me to get up, and that wasn't my seat. I refused at first, but for the first couple of seconds, that's when his friend had came over, and I was pretty much pressed into finding another seat. I ended up getting out of the seat and sat by myself once again and cried, accepting the fact that he didn't want to hang out with me. Over time, events like this can be life changing for a person. How they interact with people, not often making the first move or initiating the conversation, or ignoring people first before they get a chance to do it to them, or simply just give up before even trying. Then eventually we say, what's the point? Even for me, there's certain things that I won't post on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, not because of shame or embarrassment or getting backlash, but due to the simple fact that no one would even care. Now, I'm not in no way, shape, or form trying to say that I have agoraphobia or trying to self diagnose myself, but it is a scary thought to think, God forbid, what if something happens to me and the people that I know and love just didn't even know, or they just happen to forget my existence. But I think I can get an idea of what it feels to be afraid of being truly forgotten. Here's what it feels like to me, personally. It's a feeling as if you're in space or in the bottom of an ocean, completely by yourself, and there's absolutely nothing around you. Just emptiness, but you yourself doesn't feel empty. When you try to call out for someone, scream, or try to get a radio signal, no one can hear you. And time goes by, and your history, out of sight, out of mind. And this is all happening internally.
You never forget kids like Emily or Andy, but they forget you.
Jessie tells the story about her owner, Emily, years ago when she was younger, and the movie Toy Story 2. To Jessie, this was pretty much all she knew, a life with just her and Emily underneath the autumn trees and playing in the fields. As time goes by, Emily gets older and her room changes as she matures and gets rid of most of her toys, replacing them with makeup. And now she has new friends. And at some point, Jessie literally gets swept under the rug or bed. Until one day, Emily drops her purse with her belongings falling out. She fishes for them underneath the bed to only find an old friend. The scene cuts to them underneath the autumn trees once again, only for us to get into a box with the other past memories. And when Jessie peeks outside the box, she sees Emily's car driving away. Another thing that Toy Story got right was the fact that they decided to go with the season of fall. Aside from it being known as the harvest season, it's also a season of change. Emily is now an adult, and even though the trees are beautiful and vibrant, the leaves are dying. Fall is also a season of old age and death. And in this case, it's not a physical death, but a death of friendship. And even with the song, it complements the flashback super well. So the years went by, and I stayed the same, but she began to drift away. I was left alone. Still, I waited for that day when she'd say, "I will always love you." Another great example is Mr. Bing Bong from Inside Out, an imaginary friend of Riley when she was only 3 years old. In a similar situation, as Riley gets older, Mr. Bing Bong becomes nothing more than a has-been, and even gets his wagon thrown into the memory dump, where memories become lost forever.
No! No, 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 you can't take my rocket to the dump! Riley and I are going to the moon! Riley can't be done with me.
Joy tries several attempts to get Mr. Bing Bong out of his melancholy, but nothing works. It's only when sadness comforts Mr. Bing Bong he's able to get out of his melancholy. And they take a moment to reminisce and talk about the plans he and Riley were going to do together, but never happened.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time. We had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness!
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Fast forward later into the movie, and Riley is in the process of running away. The trio tries to prevent this from happening, but Joy and Mr. Bing Bong find themselves falling into the abyss of the memory dump. As you can imagine what can happen inside of the dump, everything around them, every memory disappears, and so does Mr. Bing Bong. Luckily for them, they managed to find Bing Bong's wagon and try several attempts to fly out of the dump, but Mr. Bing Bong is too heavy for the wagon to handle. So, on their last attempt on trying to get out of the dump, as any noble soldier does, he jumps off of the wagon at the last minute, and Joy makes it back to the surface.
You made it! Go! Go save Riley! Take her to the moon for me. Okay?
And with that, Mr. Bing Bong fades into obscurity, forgotten forever. For these two characters, it's interesting to see how they deal with this problem. For some, they can become melancholy or bitter, or sometimes desperate, or reliving memories, both good and bad. which can give us false hope. Even though Jessie still deals with those memories, she's able to live in the present with people who love and care for her. And for Bing Bong, he goes from completely in denial to completely accepting it in the end. And I guess that will be my way of dealing with it too. Focusing on the ones that care about you, the ones that consistently check up on you and genuinely cares about you, instead of putting all your energy in something that was or could have been. Because in their eyes, you're not forgotten.